Hello and welcome to FX training course on developing food education in children. Today we're talking about food portions. Activity 2 will give you some very practical tools for children to evaluate their food portions. Let's get started. Do we all need the same amount of food? No. We would remind you that this activity and all this training are designed for children aged between 6 and 11, so they do not have the same height and even less the same height as an adult. Their nutritional requirements vary between 1500 and 1600 calories for a 6-year-old and 1900 and 2100 for an 11-year-old. Understandably, they do not need the same amount of food on their plates, even if they share the same meal. To help the children understand how much food they put on the plate and what they have to put on it before, we are going to draw on their own experience. We're going to ask them to draw their own lunch and dinner from the day before on a plate printed on a sheet of paper that you can download below the activity. If children are aged between 6 and 8, you can suggest that they draw only one meal. Ask them to break down the food into its constituent parts and put everything on their plate, trying to keep the proportion right. You see that this isn't always easy for them, but you can guide them through this activity. By using your own example, you will be able to guide children and help them understand the instructions better. You're going to take the same sheets of paper and draw your lunch and dinner from the previous day. For the lunch, you can use the canteen as an example. If you've eaten with the children, this will help them better visualize the food options. For example, at lunch, you had mozzarella tomatoes, a nice plate because you felt like it. Then you put half the carrots on your plate, a quarter of chickpeas for vegetable protein, and a quarter of wheat semolina. Explain to the children that it's important to break down the food groups so that they realize how much they've eaten of each. This is the challenge of the activity, to see the quantity of each group. Do not hesitate to make the link with activity 1 about food groups by saying, for example, that the carrots took up a lot of space on your plate because vegetables have to represent a big share of the daily food intake. Finally, for dessert, you had a banana because you were in the mood for fruit, and there were bananas at the canteen. Of course, you also drank a large glass of water. Don't forget to remind children that it is important to drink water. For dinner, you had a plate of bolognese pasta. As you can see, everything on the plate on the slide is mixed together. The pasta, tomato sauce, and the meat. Try to show children that you've divided it properly, with half being pasta, a quarter being tomato sauce, and 4 meatballs. This will show them that there were 3 different groups in one dish. This is a perfect illustration of the concept of mixed dish. It was a nice plate, so you didn't have a starter, and for dessert you decided to have 2 kiwis because it was the right portion for you, corresponding to your fist. You also drank a big glass of water. Now it's up to the children to draw their own meals. Once the children have drawn their own portions on their own plates, it's time to help them work out the right portion for their size and age. To do this, we're going to give them the most practical tool they carry with them everywhere, their hands. You can give them this very visual illustration. A piece of fruit is, for example, the size of a fist. Of course, your fist is much bigger than the one of a child, so they'll be able to see very clearly that the portion of fruit is not the same for you as it is for them. For vegetables, the portion is evaluated by putting your hands together and taking the place of 2 handfuls. Children will see what a portion of vegetables can be on their plates. For sweet products, the portion is 2 fingers and very occasionally. You can demonstrate this by cutting up a slice of cake. Your slice will be much bigger than a child's. Then, for cereals or starchy foods, it's exactly the same as for fruit. the equivalent of the size of a fist. For meat and fish is the equivalent of the palm of a hand. Finally, for fats is the equivalent of a thumb. If children are aged between 6 and 9, they may not be able to estimate the amount of fat, as it's the adults who add oil or butter during the cooking process. Here it is possible not to give them this example, or to illustrate it with the amount of butter on a slice of bread. Now we have all these very visual cues for evaluating portions with the hands. We suggest you get them to create a little song to remind them how to memorize food portions sizes with their hands according to food groups. You can also make the link between activity 1 by adding the benefits of each food groups to the lyrics. For example, you could say, "Oh, sugary products should remain very occasional." Don't hesitate to include in the lyrics things that are very easy for children to remember, so that they can sing the song and remember how portions could be evaluated. At this stage, if you have very young children under 8, you could stop the activity. If you have slightly older children who seem capable of discussing feelings of hunger and satiety, don't hesitate to go further and do the last part of the activity. We are going to talk with children about hunger and satiety. To do this, we'll use the example of your previous meal. Remind the children that you had mozzarella tomatoes, carrots, chickpeas, semolina, and a banana. But as they say, you bit off more than you could chew. So you left few carrots and a little bit of semolina. Why did you do that? Because you weren't hungry anymore. Without saying that it's wrong not to finish your plate, we need to encourage children to reduce food waste. In fact, we invite you to take a look at the module dealing with sustainability and food waste. Here you can tell the children that it's important to assess whether they're very hungry or not, and to avoid leaving food on their plates. Assessing portions with your hands and feeling in your stomach whether you've eaten a lot, but also eating slowly, can help you better assess what you need. As for your lunch, you'd really bitten off more than you could chew because for dessert you only ate half of your banana. Fortunately, banana are quite easy to store, so you kept them and ate the other half for the afternoon snack. Don't hesitate to give them tips on how to avoid food waste. Don't hesitate to start a debate with the children by asking them questions. Are they hungry? Not hungry? How do they know if they are hungry? Get them to discuss what hunger and satiety are. It's very important that they put into words how they feel. That's it for the activity. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you in the next activities.